Hi guys, Stealth here and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon, where today we're on Jungle Law, and this is a map that I don't feature much recently. We're at 10v10, and we're going to be following Marty and Sally as they're working their way directly with an airborne push towards Echo. This is their objective, and in a 10v10 this is a pretty important town to hold. Because if you're over here then you have a good foothold, but of course red is, well, a little closer to this sector, especially if you're going helo, and motorized is not too much slower than that. So they can quickly capture that town, and then it's going to be a slugfest between these two. Interestingly though, Marty said that he's going to be making his own point value times 4. So it's going to be a lot of damage that he's able to put out. Now he goes in with PH Tiger, so this is his AA group. Lots of them too. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 AA helos, and that's, I think, British? No. Hold on, what are you using? Lynx AH7 and a Kiowa Warrior? Is he going with a neutral deck? Because that's a bit unusual. It's a weird force composition. He also has a Hammett, a Roland. Yeah, he went with a neutral deck. Interesting. Okay. Now let's switch to neutral and see what the enemy team is bringing. Not a whole lot, as of yet, that is. Not a whole lot. There's no airborne push. He's going to be able to use that. Look at that, it's just ground vehicles. Nobody went helicopters on Red 4. That's refreshing. Of course there's the mutual artillery just trying to get some early kills. And by the looks of it, they were sort of able to do just that. 25 points. Of course you don't really shoot to kill with this artillery, you shoot to wound. So that the forces with their first clash will have a little bit of an easier time. Anyway, let's switch it back to Marty. Look at that. His lynxes are even rushing forward over here. I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be SAS as an effort to help out this AA helo group in countering whatever sort of airborne push is coming their way, but there's just nothing here. And I think they were just as surprised about that. Because initially you saw the markers going over there. Now he's rushing even further forward. Yep, we got SAS. We also saw a large formation of Red 4 units come down this road. Including HQ7s, so the helos have to get out of here. And he's dropping off... the Stoottroepen, the Dutch guys. With a bit of Fliegerfaust. Okay. What is Red doing? Why are you all out here? Thema. He seems to be very, very interested in this particular stretch of forest. I'm not really sure why. I don't really see the strategic importance of this forest over here. Because at this point, despite the fact that there is a contingent of Dutch and British forces over here, yes, with some Germans thrown in, you can still pretty easily overwhelm this town if you wanted to. But if you allow an airborne deck to dig in, that's when the challenge becomes increasingly hard, and it's just going to get very, very tough to try to uproot the British and the Dutch over here. So let's see how exactly Red 4 plans to push in here. Because we got 2 players at least, Thema and Zenny. We have found one of Sally's lynxes. Fernspeyer, Hammett. Oh, Tony Montana's here too. Now they're pushing across, but they're leading with their HQ7s. They're just giving the points away now. An Abrams from Sally comes in. Standard Abrams at that. 65 point tank. Of course, he wouldn't have access to the M1A2, but he would have access to the M1A1. And this is a weird fight. standoffish like this. They are, however, going to have a confrontation with the Royal Marines and the SAS over here. We got Podobranci coming in, BTRD leading. But it seems like they just don't have enough fire support units. It's just a bunch of machine guns. I'm not seeing any tanks. I'm not really seeing any sort of IFVs. But they're pushing with machine gun fire mostly. And they're immediately getting greeted by a withering barrage from Sally's AML 6020 servals. Now these things don't do a terrible amount of damage, but especially with volleys like those, well, let's say that the infantry down there is not having a good time. Royal Marines, however, against all these forces, despite the fact that these guys are panicked or stunned, I'm not exactly sure if they're going to win that. Yeah, there we go. That's the Royal Marines going. And so far, again, there's very little going on in this town. But that's about to change as Commando BR pushes in with a couple of BTR 60s. Aha, with the recoilless rifles inside. Not really what I was expecting here. I was kind of expecting something a little bit more intimidating to enemy infantry. The Gong Gong Gong, not so much. They're just not that impressive against enemy infantry. And they are going down fast at that. Now let's see how the left flank's doing. They got the town secure. How's the left? A triple Merca for 3B? Okay. That's a lot of firepower. Oh, but there's a dual stack Moderna too. So alright. Gotta have your double and triple stacks of super heavies. Otherwise it's not Wargame. I just don't really understand when exactly that became the meta. Because for me it still seems like a very easy target. Trying to go for a Moderna with an aircraft. It doesn't really matter which Moderna you hit. As long as you wound or destroy one of them, you just take out 50%. And 2 Modernas are harder to hide than just one. Plus, you know exactly where both super heavies are. Because if he was operating with 2 super heavies, so let's say 2 Modernas, one over there, one over here, you'd have to keep track of both of these things at the same time and see what they're doing and where they're going. And he's not doing that, and he's making life a little easier on Blue 4 by just providing with the exact location of both Modernas. Now, it seems like the Dutch are getting shelled pretty bad. But so far, it is just shelling. And there is no actual follow-up. The T-64 BVs from Tema are still up here. They have taken a pretty bad beating though. But I don't think that Blue really has the punch to actually take them out. Because I'm not seeing any HGMs. Well, there's just one coming in, a Humvee TOW 2. Which... it's going to be a pretty tricky shot for a Humvee TOW 2 in this terrain. There's tree cover everywhere. So it's going to be hard to get an actual shot in. Although that, from the Tiger, was a good one. There's 1 down. There's 2 down. That should take care of the tanks for the moment. And in the meanwhile, it seems like the Dutch were able to take care of quite a few of the infantry that Red 4 was able to sneak into this forest. Again, still infantry with machine gun supports. I'm not seeing IFVs. If I'm going to rush a town like this, I would bring IFVs or something like that. Oh, poor shot by the Viggen there. Both missiles just skimmed over the top of the M84AN. Didn't do any damage. Why is this guy keeping his Vihor out in the open? That was a very, very narrow survival there. 1 hit point left. M84AN takes fire from an A64 TD. Yeah, he's not going to take too many hits to get killed off. And seeing the seemingly utter lack of Red 4 AA, he might also make a play for the Vihor. Yeah, he's thinking about it. Unfortunately, the A64 TD has missiles which are not fire and forget, so you need to keep an eye on the target. Look at that, there's even infantry in these transports. What sort of Red 4 players are we dealing with here? Boom, that's another 30 points. 5 points for the transport, 25 for the infantry. So that's pretty expensive infantry at that. This is a weird fight. Suddenly I'm not so surprised that he said that he's making 4 times his points in... or 4 times his losses in wins. Because red is not making it hard. They're just presenting a whole host of targets. Look at that, a landed helo in the middle of nowhere. I don't get it. Maybe these guys are newer players. That's possible. They're still heavily getting shelled. But we haven't actually seen a serious push on this town just yet. Maybe that's still going to happen. I'd say the left flank for now is a little bit more interesting. As there seems to be a large dent over here that Red 4 has made. I'm not sure at how much of a cost that came to them. The Murkovas at least are ready. But do you really want to engage tanks at this short range? He's leading with the FSKs. King of Jordan with Cabanosik in support. Oh, you want to be careful with these things. They have 21 frontal armor, they got a grenade launcher on there. But they are absolutely not invincible. And on top of that, their only optical support they have, their only optics, is themselves. Yeah, he's now requesting infantry support. That was a bit of a questionable decision there. He just launched an F-16 at, or had an F-16 drop on a target here, but it really wasn't worthy of an airstrike, I'd say. Especially since you don't really know what the enemy has in AA, and you can be fairly certain that there's going to be a lot of it. I mean, it's a 10v10. Somebody's going to have to think about bringing AA. Finally, we're seeing something of a push here. But this time around, it's not just the Stoothoepen anymore, it's also the Vuurploeg. And those super dragons can really mess up infantry fast. And since he's coordinating with Sally, the infantry that is going to come through this town, or through these woods towards the town, is going to get some slight delays. But now we're seeing an actual serious maneuver on this town. Proletariat are down. Here come the autocannons. But the autocannons at this range, well, they're going to be highly accurate, but they're also going to be pretty easy to kill. If he was providing support from, I'd say, maybe this range, or try to do it from over there, that would provide much more of a challenge to kill off the PvP M80As. And right now he's just... Ooh, don't move out just yet. There's more shells incoming. Right now he's making it easy. Uh-oh. Napalm. Get out. Get out. I'm not sure if those guys are going to be surviving. 4,000 for blue, 2,000 for red. We've got Gagawin pushing through the middle, encountering rangers. That's not going to end well for the rangers. That is, if those guys still have their ammunition left for the FHJ-84. If they do, then it's going to end fairly quickly for the rangers. And it looks like that's exactly what's happening. How are the Murkovas doing? Oh, they're still here. They seem to have taken a little bit of morale damage, and they're now just calm again. Now, this is something that you seem to see quite a bit on Jungle Law. It tends to become static warfare. This is why you do not bring in aircraft. He's going to try it again. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 AA pieces. But this is a triple stack of heavy missile-guided, or, yeah, missile-guided AA. Or, no, actually radar-guided AA, not missile-guided. And I'm not actually seeing any sort of artillery targeting that position. He could have, with the Doher. The Dutch are shouting that there's all sort of trouble in their town. Dutch voice acting is still very, very cringy. But then again, it's easy for me to judge how the Dutch and the English units are what their voice lines are. The other nations, I have no idea, but I believe they're all saying fairly the same thing. That it comes down to the same thing. Risky play here by by Somali pleasure boat captain. This M1A2, I'd say it's easily getting detected. But so far, it's just sitting there. I want to see what Red's up to. Ah. Red seems to be readying a push through the forest over here. But he's just going with reservists. At this point, it doesn't really matter what you do and what you throw at this forest. You're going to hit something regardless. So, we got a sort of screen of OT-810D, no, not the D, OT-810s with BTRDs. And they're all getting their ass handed to them by a couple of Royal Marines and Panzerschmieden. This could be a tactic though, so that these guys run out of anti-tank ammunition and that the Modernas can then whack any infantry that comes too close. But so far, the reservists really won't handle. They just are not able to hold their own against Royal Marines. 42% accuracy, 48 on the machine gun. These guys don't even have a machine gun. And they're firing with, I'd say, an antiquated rifle. The VZ-52. Ready to fire, 64 rounds a minute. They're taking cluster fire. Oh, this could be a kill or two. Oh, that last one was close. Just another reason why you do not send in your super heavies 2x2. Gurkhas, Panzerschmieden and Merkavas now moving forward. Where's your third? Oh, there's your third mode. So this left flank is mostly reservists. What's the enemy doing on the other flanks? T-80Us pushing forward without reconnaissance support. Risky. Spetsnaz, BRDMs. This town is sort of held by a token force. It's just 10 Conkers M. With Spetsnaz which are not even in the building. This is a weird team. Well, at least I got this town heavily entrenched. I'll give you that much. The fact that blue is able to get over here is not a good sign for red. Oh, we're seeing some actual resistance coming in. Twardy. Let's see, how many players? Worm Conehead. Tima. Yeah, it's mostly forces by Worm Conehead. And he seems to be rushing in with quite a few forces. But it's all armored stuff. Armored and a bit of AA support. What's his plan over here? They are putting up a pretty impressive smokescreen that might blind blue for. Yeah, they don't know. Well, now they do. Fern spares are moving forward. This is probably one of those oh shit moments where you go, oh, they got a lot of stuff out there. And all of those red units are coming this way. That is going to be a bit of a challenge, as they don't have too much. Chieftain Mark 11s. Well, they're very accurate in a standing position. If they're moving, not so much. And you don't really want to move those things anyway, because they're only doing 45 kilometers per hour off-road. Look at that. He knows that there's probably one unit firing back at him. And they do smoke up that position. That's well played. But dropping off your Motostrelci back there, well, you can pretty much rush them through the smoke screen right into the enemy tank. Now they're very vulnerable. And yes, your smoke over here is adequate, but over here, there's still a Leopard 2A4. Of course, they don't know that, but you can assume that this whole line is going to fire right back at you. Lots of infantry pushing across, but once again, they run into the fire from the AML-60s. Once again. It is not going very well for Red 4. But I gotta say, this was a bit more of an organized push than what we've seen so far. However, I don't think that they're actually going to break through. The VDV are once again taking another salvo from the Servals. These things are now out of ammo. Oh, they might have different problems as well. Yeah, they're taking quite a bit of damage here. Have I seen the Steel Division 2 gameplay video? I did see the one from the deck building, but not any others. I did get an invite for a closed beta viewing or a press demo. And I'll probably take them up on that because I am curious what they're doing with that game. But of course I'm not supposed to talk about that. Most of the stuff is very, very much under embargo. Middle. Once again, red is making a push. They are definitely making an effort here. And considering the fact that blue only has AA and some light recon units, I think that they will make it through here. There goes another one who surrenders. So that's one. We saw Watsu UK surrender. Radovan, there's another one. I gotta say, Sally's doing a good job holding his own over here, but at the same time, they are not making it that hard for him to hold on to this town. Because you're seeing some artillery shelling every now and then, you're seeing a little bit of a push. But so far, it seems like Red 4 is in a very generous mood and donating a lot of units. I am curious, by the way. I'm currently looking at Cabanosek. Where are his points? Because this is not a tactical match. 20,000 points. He has 2 Doher. He has those 3 Merkavas and 2 Magbets. Maglan. Hafiz. Laish. You can probably buy more units for this. There goes 1 Merkava. Once again, problematic. Pushing out with 2 Merkava 3Bs without reconnaissance. And all of a sudden you see artillery coming in, ATGMs and short-range anti-tank weapons. And you lose one of your Mercs. Now over on the right, a couple of Sokols and an MI2, but once again, there's not really too much happening. For a 10v10, that is a bit unusual. Abrams here doing some very nasty stuff to transports. But they're taking a lot of AGGMs here. Sturm, potentially a second Sturm back there. That could be shelling from, what is that? A Paladin. Another Sturm. If he gets, oh, that was painful. If he gets up here, he can take out the Sturms. If he takes out the tank. Yep, nope. Chieftain, just... Red 4 is not really making an effort, it seems. What are these guys doing for points? They're all fairly low. Gagawin and Baslik currently have most points. I think that if he's still here, then Zenny has inherited a lot of forces. Because Watsu left, the question marks left, and Radovan left. So that means that the second on the list inherited all of those units. That's a lot to manage. Can we see how much he has? Yeah, he has nothing. Bravo range surrenders. Who's the one who's still in command of these forces? Commando BR. Okay, so looking at this battle from Commando BR's point of view, he has forces everywhere. Far left, all the way to the far right. The more people leave, the harder it's going to be for him to keep everything alive. So, if he's going to rack up a lot of losses, then I don't really blame him. Already incoming? At least he's coordinating, I'll give him that. He's now... No, that's Tema. He's trying to rush in forces against Marty at the moment. Those VDV did stand a good chance. But it's like Red 4 is not really quite there. Because they're shelling their own VDV. So Commando was shelling the town as the VDV were rushing in. And now Worm Conehead's rushing in with a very small task force of just 4 Vitra 2s. And he's dropping off his Motor Strelchi again early. There's not too much left there, infantry-wise. These guys are just camping out here in the woods. Not sticking to that town anymore. Fortunately for them, they don't know yet. Otherwise the Servals would immediately light them up. Now, of course, it's very easy to just sit here and critique the battle and say, hey, you're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong. And that's not really the aim here. It is hard to push into an entrenched position. I'll give you that much. This town, they weren't doing many things wrong trying to push into the town. Especially now, they're putting up a smoke screen. They're rushing him with forces. Now he's dropping off his forces right on top of the US Marines here. But what I wasn't quite seeing was a combined effort. It's just like these guys were coming in single file. So we had one group come in. And then there was a bit of a break. And then another group came in. And another bit of a break. And every time you give your enemy a break, you give them time to resupply. And to repair and regroup. And that's exactly what you saw happening. Because we got a Hemet over there. And whenever infantry gets wounded and survives, that's sort of prerequisite. That was a shitty bombardment. Whenever they survive, they can easily get back on their feet thanks to the Hemet. And now all of the infantry from Red is dead again. And now they're sending in an Albatross. Or well trying. See, that was another half-assed attack. Either commit your forces to really taking over this town, or don't. Because doing this thing in a haphazard, halfway fashion, it just doesn't work. And they are losing a lot of forces doing it. There goes Tema. So that means that he, Commander BR, now even has more forces. Holy crap. That's a heck of a lot to manage. They're also continuously sending in aircraft. And Blue is feasting on so many airframes which are coming over. But they're just all getting wiped out. 6,500, 10,800. Yeah, I'd say the battle is pretty much decided. I'm not really expecting any miracles here. He's rushing in with 551s. Backed up by OT-62As. Again, a good smoke screen here. Now he's dropping off his forces almost on top of the Royal Marines. Royal Marines taking out one OT-62A. But this is pretty much the point where you want to stop shelling things. If you keep shelling this place, then you're shelling your own infantry. So who's the one operating those artillery units? I think it's Commander BR. There goes Gagawin. So Commander BR just got more units. Now the Legions are rushing in. These guys can make short work of most of the infantry, but not like that. And that was mostly thanks to at least one aircraft by Blue. And almost the entire push got eradicated. That's the problem. And there is not a whole lot that Red could do about that. They were not patrolling with jets. They didn't have any air support other than the Pongay, but Blue never got close enough for the Pongay to actually be effective. This one could have fired, but is out of ammo. And here comes another push by Worm Conehead. It's not for lack of trying that they're trying to get to this town. It is definitely not lack of trying, but this unstructured attack, that is slowly but steadily causing a hell of a lot of losses on their part. Legions are trying to hold their own against the Stoottroepen, and they can do that, but not against an M1 supporting them. Fortunately, they are getting some support. We go to Smack coming in. Immediately gets dropped off. There's another fresh group of 30 US Marines. They're trying to rush into the town. LSTRs are getting their ass handed to them thanks by, well, everything that's firing back at them. Mostly US Marines, I think. And another airstrike. And another bunch of casualties among the both the Legions and the LSTR and the transports. Yeah, this is not going anywhere. If I were to be in this situation of red, and I really wanted this town in Echo, and you gotta ask yourself, is that a strategic objective at this point? Do you really want to get this town in Echo? Because I, for one, at the moment, don't really see any strategic advantages to having this town. It's not a tactical, so... Or sorry, it's not conquest, so it's not like you have to hold on to this sector. And all that's doing is just providing a hell of a lot of points for blue for. You're just feeding blue with more and more and more points. So I'd say, question 1, do we need this town? Do we need this sector? And the answer currently is no, because even if you do capture it, what are you going to do with it? He has 2 units of infantry in here, now what? This is not a good place to push. Because initially I was talking about this town, and how this is okay to hold, but if you don't have this one, it can still be very much of a stalemate. This one is similar. It's just the reverse. That was a good kill. It's just the reverse. There's not a whole lot going on there. So, at the moment, I'd say just ignore the town. Hold on to a line here and there. Because you know the blue fort just keeps pouring on infantry into that town. So just ignore it. And focus on an area where you might be able to make an actual difference. But then again, when you're in the battle, it is hard to do that. I really struggle with that myself, to just try and slow down, zoom out and think, hey, do I really need this position at all? Or can I bypass it? Can I find a different way to make for my objective? It's almost like they know where the command vehicle is. Now red has no shortage of reconnaissance over here. I'll give him that much. No shortage at all. I'm just gonna speed this thing up to full speed and move on to a different replay, because I don't think that this is gonna go anywhere really. We're going to see more and more red casualties, and red has, especially seeing their low number of players, pretty much already lost the game. Because the only players that we have left are Commando BR and Buslik, I think. Yeah. And now even he surrenders, so now it's just Commando BR. And just in those last couple of minutes, yeah. Blue's at 16,000, rushing him with tanks. He just has to manage every single unit on the map at this point. Yeah, it's done. Alright, if you guys have any new replays that I should definitely have a look at, then if you're on stream, send them in as quickly as possible, and I might be able to look at it right now. If you're looking at this video at YouTube, then find the link in the description down below. And from over there you can send in your replay. And I'll happily discuss that. Alright, there we go. We were starting out with Martijn over there, and he got 2,000 points in kills, 530 points in losses, 6,500 command points. Although, well, yeah, no, I'd say they are important, because command points do help you buy stuff. Unfortunately, because I switched so many times between all the various kill lists, it's impossible to see a good kill list here. We're probably going to see a hell of a lot of losses here. Yeah. Now you could say Commando BR is a terrible player, but at least he's the one that actually stuck with the fight. He just did not leave. So yeah, you're going to rack up about 8,000 points in losses because you cannot manage everything. Alright, well that concludes the video. Thank you for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, and especially, how would you have pushed on that town? Or would you just ignore the town? Let's have a bit of a discussion on that instead of just saying, oh yeah, well, red was terrible. Yeah, I think we can establish that. Just what could they have done different? It's very easy to keep hating on them, but what could they have done different? Let me know down below in the comments. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon for more.